Okay, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to step inside one person's really personal account of anxiety and just break it down. We're going to use their own words as our map to better understand what's really going on inside an anxious mind.
So let's just dive right in.
Wow, what a way to start. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't some clinical description, right? This is a declaration. It's about identity. And that repetition, ever, in my life, you can just feel the weight of that. This is our starting point. This is the foundation for everything else we're about to explore.
All right, so first up, a declaration of anxiety. This is about setting the stage. This statement is the lens through which the author sees everything, and it frames this entire experience.
And that leads us right into our next section, the debilitating feeling. Now that the stage is set, the author tries to put a name to the experience, using three really specific, really powerful words to describe what this anxiety actually feels like.
The first word is debilitating. And this is so key. It's not just about feeling worried or uncomfortable. Debilitating means it weakens you. It takes away your power, your ability to just function. It actively steals something from you.
And then you've got this one, immobilizing. This word builds on debilitating, doesn't it? It's not just that you're weaker, it's that you are literally stopped in your tracks. You're pinned down. It's this idea of being mentally and physically trapped, completely unable to move forward. Just stuck.
And finally, scary. After talking about being weakened and frozen, we get to the real heart of it, the emotional core. And underneath all of that function and dysfunction, it's just raw fear. It's such a simple word, but it's probably the most powerful of the three, because it reminds us of the pure terror that can be at the center of all this.
Okay, so where does this awful feeling even come from? Well, the author doesn't point to something outside of themselves. They point inward, to this constant chatter that acts as the real engine of their anxiety.
The language here is just so important. Notice how the author talks about this cruel inner voice, but they don't just blame it. By saying, I give it validation and credibility, they're taking a kind of ownership. There's this painful self-awareness that they are part of this cycle, which is a huge, huge realization.
So you see how this works? It's a really vicious feedback loop. The chatter just consumes everything. And then, by listening to it, the author feeds it, giving it validation and credibility, which, of course, just makes it stronger. It's not helpful self-talk, it's a destructive force.
All right, so we know there's this cruel inner voice running the show, but what's the specific story it's telling? What's the actual narrative?
And here it is. This is the battleground of the anxious mind, laid out perfectly. On one side, you have this incredibly powerful emotional belief. I am convinced that people dislike me. Notice that certainty. It's not I think, it's I am convinced. But then, on the other side, you have this quiet, logical little voice, the rational part that knows, this is probably not true, or at least it's blown way out of proportion. But when you're in the middle of it, which voice do you think is screaming louder?
And all of this leads to a massive turning point, a dangerous realization. This is where the author kind of zooms out, looks at the whole situation, and really sees the true cost of living this way. The author calls this state dangerous. And here's exactly why. Their own experience creates this incredibly powerful, universal definition of what it means to be unhealthy. The danger isn't just the bad feeling itself. The real danger is being so wrapped up in one thing that it stops you from actually living your life.
And that dangerous realization leads to this. Just 5 simple words. So quiet, but absolutely monumental. I need to let this go. It's not a plan, not yet. But it's a decision. It's the moment you recognize that this just can't continue. It's the switch from being a victim of that inner voice to wanting to be an agent of change.
So, what comes next? Well, the decision is made, but the path forward? It's not clear at all. And the power of this final part is right there, in that honest uncertainty.
And this is where we end. Not with a neat 5-step plan, not with some triumphant victory lap. We end with a vulnerable, incredibly relatable question. Therapy? Writing? I don't know. The author doesn't have the answer. And maybe that honesty is the biggest takeaway here. The journey to deal with something like anxiety doesn't start with knowing the solution.
It starts with the courage to just admit you're struggling, to see the cost, and to simply ask, what now?